Alien beauty unwittingly joins a forbidden ritual in secret. The twin moons of Zarath flickered in the sky, their pale light casting an ethereal glow over the dense jungle below. Lieutenant Marla Quinn adjusted her oxygen mask as she weaved through the alien flora, her boots squelching in the thick moss. The human exploratory team had set up camp on the edge of this uncharted planet 2 days ago, but curiosity, and her own stubborn independence, had drawn her deeper into the wilderness. She wasn't supposed to be here. Her orders had been clear: stay within the perimeter until a proper survey was complete. But when her handheld scanner picked up faint, rhythmic vibrations, anomalies inconsistent with the natural environment, she couldn't resist investigating. As she crept closer to the source, the air changed. It became thicker, warmer, and tinged with a sweet, almost intoxicating scent. Marla pushed aside a cluster of luminescent vines and found herself at the edge of a clearing. What she saw stopped her cold. In the center of the glade stood a group of tall, elegant figures, Zarathians, the dominant species of this world. Their translucent skin shimmered under the moon's light, revealing veins that pulsed with bioluminescent fluid. They moved in unison, their elongated limbs weaving intricate patterns in the air as they chanted in a language Marla's translator couldn't decipher. Marla crouched behind a massive fern, her heart pounding. This wasn't a simple gathering, it was a ritual. The scanner in her hand confirmed it. The vibrations were emanating from the Zarathians themselves, their movements generating harmonic frequencies that resonated with the planet. Suddenly, one of them stopped mid-gesture and turned, their eyes, liquid pools of shifting color, locked onto her hiding spot. Before Marla could react, the group fell silent, their collective gaze piercing through the foliage. She considered running but knew it was futile. The Zarathians moved with a grace and speed that humans couldn't match. Instead, she stepped into the clearing, raising her hands in what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. To her surprise, the Zarathians didn't attack or retreat. Instead, the one who had spotted her extended a hand, its fingers impossibly long and delicate. Marla hesitated, but curiosity overrode her fear. She stepped closer and allowed the alien to take her hand. The moment their skin made contact, a jolt of energy surged through her. Images and sensations flooded her mind, star systems she had never seen, emotions she couldn't name, and a profound sense of unity. The Zarathians began to chant again, their voices low and melodic, and Marla realized with a sinking feeling that she was now part of the ritual. The leader guided her to the center of the circle. As the chanting grew louder, Marla felt her body responding in ways she couldn't control. Her arms and legs moved in sync with the Zarathians, tracing patterns in the air. It was as if the planet itself was guiding her movements. Then, the ground beneath her feet began to glow, the vibrations intensified, and Marla felt a strange connection with the Zarathians and the planet itself. She wasn't just an outsider anymore, she was a participant, an integral part of something ancient and forbidden. The ritual reached its climax with a burst of light and sound that left Marla gasping for breath. When she opened her eyes, the Zarathians were gone, their presence lingering only in the faint hum of the clearing. She stumbled back to the camp at dawn, her mind racing with questions. What had she just participated in? Why had the Zarathians allowed her to join? And what consequences would this forbidden act bring? As the twin suns rose over Zarath, Marla knew one thing for certain: her mission had taken a turn she could never have anticipated, and the secrets she now carried would change everything. The morning at camp was anything but routine. Marla entered the perimeter, her mind still a whirl of vivid sensations and alien imagery. Her team, a mix of seasoned explorers and rookie scientists, was bustling with activity as they analyzed the planet's flora samples. Quinn, Commander Hayes barked, spotting her. His grizzled face showed both irritation and concern. "You were out all night? What part of stay within the perimeter did you not understand?" Marla hesitated, debating how much to reveal. The experience felt too personal, too bizarre, to explain without sounding unhinged. Instead, she defaulted to a half-truth. "Sorry, sir, I picked up some strange energy readings and decided to investigate." Hayes crossed his arms, and? She exhaled. "The readings led to some kind of anomaly. I think the Zarathians use harmonic energy that interacts with the planet's environment. It might be tied to their culture or even their biology." His eyes narrowed, Did you interact with them? Marla stiffened, but before she could respond, Keenan, the team's xenobiologist, interrupted. Hold on, are you saying you actually encountered the Zarathians? Her tone was a mix of excitement and disbelief. Marla nodded reluctantly. Yes, they were performing some sort of ritual. She paused, unsure how to frame what happened next. I was pulled into it. Keenan's eyes lit up, but Hayes looked furious. You joined an alien ritual without knowing what it was? I didn't have much of a choice, Marla snapped, her frustration boiling over. They were peaceful, and I didn't feel threatened. If anything, it felt like they wanted me there. The team fell silent, exchanging uneasy glances. Hayes rubbed his temples. Fine, debrief in my tent in an hour, and for the love of everything, don't wander off again without authorization. Marla muttered an acknowledgement and headed to her tent, but as she tried to settle down, a sharp pain shot through her chest. She gasped, clutching her ribs, and collapsed onto her cot. A kaleidoscope of images surged through her mind again, stars, Zarathian faces, and that glowing clearing. She felt as though something deep within her was changing, realigning itself to a new rhythm. When the episode passed, Marla sat up, trembling. Her reflection in the mirror made her blood run cold. Her veins glowed faintly beneath her skin, pulsing in sync with a rhythm she couldn't hear but could feel. An hour later, in the debrief, Marla recounted her experience to Hayes and the team, but as she described the ritual, Keenan's expression darkened. This isn't just cultural, the xenobiologist said grimly. The Zarathians are known for their symbiotic relationships with their environment. If they pulled you into their ritual, they might have altered you. Altered me how? Marla demanded. Keenan frowned. It's hard to say, but those glowing veins, she gestured at Marla's arms, are definitely not normal. You might be linked to their planetary network now. If that's the case, it could mean anything, from shared knowledge to physical transformation. Hayes slammed his fist on the table. This is exactly why we follow protocol, Quinn. You've compromised yourself, and potentially this entire mission. Marla shot back. I didn't ask for this. If I hadn't gone, we wouldn't even know the Zarathians had this kind of capability, and maybe, just maybe, this is an opportunity to understand them better. Before Hayes could retort, the ground beneath them rumbled. Alarms blared as the camp's sensors detected seismic activity. Keenan checked her monitor. It's coming from the jungle, the same direction as the ritual site. Marla's veins pulsed brighter, and she felt a strange pull, an instinctive urge to return to the clearing. It's them, she said softly. I think they're calling me. Hayes stared at her, torn between frustration and the weight of the situation. Finally, he sighed. All right, Quinn, you've already gone this far. Take Keenan and 2 security officers with you, but this time, we're monitoring everything. Back in the jungle, the pull grew stronger. Marla led the group to the clearing, her glowing veins guiding her like a compass. When they arrived, the Zarathians were waiting. The leader stepped forward, their gaze calm yet intense. Without speaking, they reached out, their hand hovering near Marla's chest. A resonant hum filled the air as the Zarathian's palm began to glow, mirroring the light in Marla's veins. Keenan recorded furiously while the security officers held their weapons at the ready, but Marla was transfixed. She felt the connection again, deeper this time. The Zarathians weren't just communicating, they were teaching. Visions flooded her mind, an ancient catastrophe that had nearly destroyed their world, the creation of the harmonic rituals to heal it, and now, the inclusion of an outsider, her, into their cycle. She wasn't just part of the ritual, she was part of their solution. When the visions faded, the Zarathian leader lowered their hand and stepped back. Marla's veins dimmed, but the sense of connection remained. They've chosen her, Keenan whispered, or struck. What does that even mean? Hayes asked through the calms. Marla turned to her team, her voice steady but filled with a new resonance. It means I'm no longer just human, I'm a bridge, and whether we like it or not, we're part of this planet now. The jungle around them seemed to hum in agreement, the vibrations stronger than ever. The Zarathians retreated into the shadows, leaving Marla and her team standing in the clearing. The mission had changed, and so had Marla, but what that meant for humanity's future on Zarath was a question none of them could answer. The days that followed were tense. Back at the camp, Marla's transformation became the focal point of both scientific curiosity and growing unease. Her veins glowed faintly even in rest, and her senses had sharpened to an uncanny degree. She could feel the pulse of the planet, its energy, its rhythms, like a low hum that never left her mind. Keenan worked tirelessly to analyze Marla's condition, conducting scans and tests that yielded as many questions as answers. "Your body's integrating something," the xenobiologist explained during one of their sessions. "I'm detecting trace elements in your blood, compounds I've never seen before. They're not harmful, at least not yet, but they're doing something to your cellular structure." "What kind of something?" Marla asked, her tone sharp with unease. Keenan hesitated. "It looks like an adaptation. Maybe an attempt to make you more compatible with Zarath's environment." The implications were staggering. If the Zarathians had the ability to alter a human's biology so seamlessly, it spoke to a level of bioengineering far beyond anything humanity had achieved. Commander Hayes was less impressed. "You're a walking liability," he growled during a private meeting with Marla and Keenan. "What happens if this adaptation turns you into something we can't control? Or worse, compromises the rest of the team?" Marla met his glare with quiet defiance. "I didn't ask for this, Commander. But if the Zarathians did this to me, there's a reason. And if we want to understand them, or even survive on this planet, we need to figure out what that reason is." Hayes scowled but didn't argue. He knew she was right, even if he hated the risk she represented. That night, Marla couldn't sleep. The hum of the planet was louder than ever, and her dreams were filled with fragmented visions, shimmering landscapes, ancient Zarathian architecture, and a persistent image of the glowing clearing. By dawn, she knew what she had to do. She had to go back. She left quietly, avoiding the watchful eyes of the night patrol. The jungle seemed alive in a way it hadn't before, vibrant and welcoming, as though the planet itself recognized her. When she reached the clearing, the Zarathians were waiting. This time, there were more of them, their translucent forms glowing faintly in the pre-dawn light. The leader stepped forward again, their gaze steady. Without a word, they gestured for Marla to follow. She hesitated, glancing back at the path she'd taken from camp. But she knew there was no turning back now. Taking a deep breath, she stepped into their midst. The journey was surreal. The Zarathians led her through a series of natural tunnels beneath the jungle floor, their walls pulsating with bioluminescent patterns. Marla felt an odd sense of familiarity, as though she'd walked these paths before. Eventually, they emerged into a vast underground chamber. In its center stood a massive structure, a spire of glowing crystal that seemed to hum with the same frequency she felt within herself. The leader approached the spire and placed their hand on its surface. The vibrations intensified, and the chamber filled with light. Marla felt a pull, a deep urge to do the same. She stepped forward, her hand trembling as she reached out. The moment her skin touched the crystal, a shock wave of energy coursed through her. Her mind exploded with images and knowledge, memories of the Zarathians' history, their struggles, their hope for survival. She understood now. The Zarathians weren't just preserving their world, they were preparing for something that required her. When the connection broke, Marla collapsed to her knees, gasping. The leader helped her to her feet, their touch gentle. This time, when she looked into their eyes, she understood their meaning without words. They had chosen her to be a bridge, not just between humanity and the Zarathians, but between species and planets, between the past and the future. As she made her way back to the surface, Marla knew the mission had changed again. Her role was no longer about exploration, it was about collaboration, survival, and a future that neither humanity nor the Zarathians could achieve alone. But what that future looked like remained uncertain. And Marla was at its heart. Back at camp, the mood was strained when Marla returned. The security team had discovered her absence, and Commander Hayes was waiting for her at the perimeter. His expression was a mix of anger and exasperation. "You have some explaining to do, Lieutenant," he snapped. "Where the hell did you go this time?" Marla's glowing veins pulsed faintly as she stared back at him, her exhaustion replaced by a quiet resolve. "I went to the Zarathians," she said simply, "and I know now why they've done this to me." Hayes raised an eyebrow, his tone sharp.
Oh, this should be good.
Enlighten us.
Marla took a deep breath. The Zarathians aren't just trying to survive.
They're preparing for a planetary convergence, a kind of cosmic event that happens every few millennia.
Their rituals keep the planet stable, but something's gone wrong.
The harmonics they use aren't enough anymore.
They need an intermediary,
someone who can connect with them and bridge their energy with another species.
Keenan, who had joined the confrontation, looked fascinated.
Wait, are you saying they've chosen you to stabilize the planet?
Yes, Marla replied. The energy in the spire, they called it the core, is part of a system that regulates Zarath's environment, but it's breaking down.
They've bonded me to it because my biology is different enough to amplify the harmonics they can no longer generate on their own.
Hayes looked incredulous. You're telling me they turned you into some kind of planetary tuning fork?
It's not just me,
Marla shot back.
This planet and its people are connected.
If the core collapses, Zarath could destabilize completely, ecosystems destroyed, the Zarathians wiped out, and if we're still here when it happens, we're going down with them. Silence fell over the group as the gravity of her words sank in. The next few days were a flurry of activity. Marla worked closely with Keenan to relay everything she'd learned about the Zarathians' rituals and the core. They devised a plan to assist the Zarathians in stabilizing the planet, combining human technology with the harmonic frequencies Marla had now become attuned to. Not everyone was on board. Hayes remained skeptical, and a few members of the team were openly fearful of what Marla had become. How do we know we can trust them? One engineer muttered during a briefing. What if they're using her for something we can't see coming? They didn't have to let me go, Marla countered. They're not trying to hurt us. They're trying to save their world, and now, ours too. We have a chance to do something incredible here, but we have to act fast. Hayes eventually gave the green light, albeit reluctantly. If this goes sideways, Quinn, it's on your head, he warned. Marla just nodded. She knew the risks better than anyone. The operation to stabilize the core began at sunset, under the twin moons that had watched over her first encounter with the Zarathians. Marla stood in the clearing, surrounded by the alien figures who now felt oddly familiar. Her team was nearby, monitoring the harmonics with a portable array of sensors and amplifiers. As the Zarathians began their ritual, Marla stepped forward, feeling the energy pull her into its rhythm. The hum of the core resonated through the jungle, growing louder and more intense. Keenan's voice crackled through her earpiece. Energy levels are spiking. Whatever you're doing, it's working. Marla raised her hands, mimicking the movements of the Zarathians. The glowing veins in her body lit up like fire, and the connection between her and the core deepened. She felt the energy flow through her, merging human ingenuity with alien precision. But then, something changed. The core's vibrations began to destabilize, growing erratic. The Zarathians faltered, their rhythm breaking. It's overloading, Keenan shouted. We're losing it. Marla's mind raced. She felt the imbalance, the chaotic push and pull of energies on the brink of collapse. Instinctively, she stepped closer to the core, her hand reaching for its crystalline surface. Marla, no, Hayes yelled through the calms. She ignored him. As her hand touched the core, a surge of energy ripped through her, brighter and stronger than anything she'd felt before. Her vision blurred as she became one with the harmonics, her consciousness intertwining with the planet itself. Through sheer will, Marla stabilized the frequencies, aligning them with her own heartbeat. The Zarathians regained their rhythm, their chanting blending seamlessly with the core's vibrations. The jungle around them pulsed with light, a cascade of energy flowing outward like a ripple across the planet. When the ritual finally ended, Marla collapsed to her knees, gasping for air. The Zarathian leader approached her, their expression one of profound gratitude. It's done, Keenan said over the calms, her voice shaking with relief. The energy levels are stabilizing, the core. It's healing. Marla looked up at the Zarathians, then at her team. We did it, she whispered, though she knew the journey was far from over. The planet was safe, for now, but as Marla felt the lingering hum of the core within her, she realized she was no longer just a bridge between two species. She was something new, something neither fully human nor Zarathian. And she had a feeling the universe wasn't done with her yet.